and welcome to the show. I'm Tosh Taylor.
And I'm Jenna Morton, and we have a special guest in studio with us today. We are going to talk about one of my favorite topics, one of your favorite topics
absolutely.
too. We are talking New Brunswick authors, and specifically we are talking about children's books with the fabulous Jennifer McGrath. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I am thrilled that you were able to come in because we were a little worried weather-wise.
Yes.
We are in New Brunswick.
Yep, snow on the way, and I have not yet picked up my storm chips, so, you know, priorities.
Yeah, serious priorities.
Us, then chips.
Yes.
Perfect. So one of the reasons that we invited you in at this time specifically, because we have talked many times before about you, but not with you on this show, is you have a new book out.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's so exciting. Every time I see someone, especially someone that I've met or that I feel a connection with, get a new book, it's like, I feel like you need to be like showered with like cake and balloons, and that it's like a new baby.
It really is. And the gestation period is really long. Longer.
So tell everyone a little bit about The Pony and the Starling.
Well, it's a really special story to me. As you know, all of my books are inspired by the New Brunswick landscape where we live, and that shaped me as a writer. This one is also really inspired by a pony that I owned, and the seasons around, and there actually was a starling in this case. So the gray pony in this one is inspired by a pony that I had named Fiona. And she really did live in a little paddock with a little barn and a big old maple for hot sunny days. And there really was a starling that befriended her one season. And I used to watch them out the kitchen window. And every time I looked out the window, the starling would be either on the fence or it would be in the old maple right near her, or more often, it would be right down on the ground, hopping along between her hooves. So it really was something special and something that I had observed over quite a long period of time. And at the time I thought, you know, this is a story. I know it's a story. I don't know how it's a story yet, but I know it's a story.
I can just kind of picture you, you know, in the kitchen window watching and then trying to put the process together. Like, how do I even start this book? But this is way too cute to leave behind.
It was, and I knew it wasn't just a kind of a once upon a time kind of a story, because it was really more about just the privilege of witnessing this interaction and this relationship in nature, kind of framed by the season and by the landscape. And, you know, it was a privilege to watch it, and it was just something that I kind of stored inside for a long time. And it was many years later that it actually became a book.
Oh.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because I think some people who, you know, just pick up a book off the shelf and read it, and it takes, you know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read a children's book. You're like, oh, it probably only takes, you know, as long as it takes to come up with a little story in your head. And you're like, no, it takes years to sit with something sometimes.
It really does. And this one, it really did. I sat with that idea, or that seed of an idea, probably for 5 or 6 years until it was ready to be told, and to be told in the shape that it wanted to be told, because it's never just about transcribing a series of events. Picture books are so much more than that. That's why I love the medium of picture books as well, because it's this incredible fusion between storytelling and poetry and art. And it's, you know, in that intersection, when that all comes together, it's a really incredible thing. And there's a lot of reflection that goes into that, a lot of thinking about that. But most of all, there's a lot of listening that goes into it. So you have to feel the shape of the story. You have to sit with it. You have to clear away all the extra words, and that takes time. it's not a simple thing. It's not a, it's, I mean, it does have a lot of similarities, I think, to the poetry writing process. And a poem may have very few words on the page, but you know that there's a lot that goes into that. And picture books are very similar.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And actually, it plays in really well to my next, or not the next question, but a question I was planning on asking. I'm just skimming over the covers of your books, and I noticed that your illustrators are different for each one. So how does that process work for you in picking an illustrator?
That's a great question, and it's one I get asked a lot. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're going the traditional publishing route, it is most often the publisher that selects the illustrator.
Ah.
So the publishers have this wonderful portfolios of artists and illustrators, and so when I submit my manuscript and my text, they will consider that text very carefully and then kind of compare it against this wonderful, we have so many incredible talented artists and illustrators in Canada as well, and the publishers, they're in the position to know like who's out there and who's doing what and what wonderful talent is there, and a lot goes into selecting the right artist. So the author often doesn't have that direct contact with the illustrator, and a lot of people say, oh, how do you feel about that? Like, that must be so hard. And to which I say, my job is the words. I'm not an artist. That's their talent. And when you have the privilege to work with somebody who's, you know, really, really good at what they do, you kind of have to stay out of their way. So a picture book is one of those things where it's really a 50-50 collaboration between the author and the illustrator, and they are bringing their creative vision to the project as much as the author is. So it's really interesting, and it's something that you do evolve and you learn as you as you sort of come along in this business. But it's a wonderful thing. Now they will invite sort of high-level author feedback through the editor. So for things like continuity, sort of high-level concept ideas. So for example, when I wrote The Snow Nose, I knew that I wanted it to have a seek and find component. So I knew that I wanted there to be a little visual cue on the page as to what the next woodland animal would be. So that's all I said. Wow. And I mean, José Bizet just, she just did it fabulously. And I'll just show you because it's still one of my favorite things. This is The Snow Nose, where the rabbit goes. And if you look really, really carefully, you might notice this.
Oh my gosh!
Here.
I wouldn't have picked up on that.
Like the little hint of wings.
That's right. Which leads us
fade into birch bark almost.
And then it's the hush hush of the owl's wing, and it becomes both an intimate and engaged reader experience. And it doesn't matter if you don't notice that the first 3 or 4 or 5 times that you read it. At one point, you will notice it, and then it's like,
and then you love the book all over again.
Right, but that is an example. Like I couldn't have sat back and told José, I want this here, and no, don't put that rabbit there, and I think you should put that is my my realm is the words, and the artist's realm is the art. So you really want to leave a lot, and that's the other thing too. When you're writing the text, is you have to leave space. You have to leave space for the artist's creative vision as well. So, if sometimes the editor will come back and will ask for a little bit more, like, what were you thinking about this? And then I can offer kind of what my thoughts are, knowing that, they will be extrapolated and come, become something that even better than what I would imagine. So.
I wondered about that back and forth because I did know that you don't necessarily pick your illustrator, but I was never sure how much back and forth you have between your writing and their vision and what then we all see as the finished product.
Right, and the editor is generally the intermediary, because again, the feedback needs to be filtered and thoughtful and taken for
And that's their skill set. That's their magic.
And again, a lot of people are like shocked by this, and I'm like, no. If you were a playwright and you were writing a stage play, you're not going to then hover over every production and every director and tell them how to cast it, how to costume it, what the set design is, where the cues are, where the lighting is. Like, you're giving that creative project to somebody else, and then it's becoming something, even more fabulous than you imagine. And that's what I love about the process. That's something that's, you get those first roughs back, and you're like, oh, this is amazing.
Well, I had wondered, especially when it comes to a story about your own pony, your own horse, right? Like, did you, could you, if you wanted to, send in photos of what she looked like, and then they could run off of that kind of thing?
I did.
Okay.
In this case, I did, and with the caveat, I said, listen, these are for reference at your discretion. There is, don't feel that it has to look like this. It doesn't have to be, this book was inspired by my pony. It doesn't have to be her. As it turned out,
it is. Yeah.
And her and your dog, all the imagery must feel like home, does it?
That's exactly the best way to describe it. It was. When I got this book, it was like, this everything about this book feels like home. From the house that I grew up in to the house I raised my kids in. So there's all those emotions, all those influences. They're all sort of packaged in this book, and reanimated. Like, the spirit it's all there.
I think, sorry to cut you off. I just really think that is a true testament to your writing. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah. If they're able to nail it off of your story, you know what I mean? Obviously they could feel it.
This one was really, I have to say, writing all my books is personal when you're in the midst of it. This one was really personal. And the illustrator, Christina Jones, just did a fabulous job. And I did learn that she also had a pony when she was growing up. So she has that connection as well. And as you know, we all bring a little bit of ourselves to every creative project that we do. So her influences are in there too. But as far as capturing the spirit of the place and the feeling of the landscape and the animals, for sure. And when I first saw the images of the dog, I teared right up. Because it was like, she really, Christina just did a fabulous job, and she really got, it's not just the artwork is beautiful, the artwork is stunning, but the heart is there. She got the heart of it.
Love it.
It is just an absolutely gorgeous book to pick up. And I know you and I have talked about this idea that, children's books, while they're written with children in mind, they are not just for children. A good book is a good book. And I have to say, I reread this again this morning and just again was like, oh, how did I not notice that phrase before? Or the word choice and the phrasing is beautiful. And I'm wondering if you'd share just a little taste of it with everyone.
Oh, thank you. I would love that.
I would love that.
And you're so true. That you're so right. And that's one of the first things I tell everyone because especially when you're signing in bookstores, one of the first things that people ask, well, who is this for? What age range is this for? And I always say, picture books are for everyone. If the story speaks to you, if the art moves you, it's for you. Because I've had people come and pick up books and say, oh, I really like this, but I don't know who to buy it for. And I'm like, you are allowed. You're allowed to buy it for yourself.
You're not alone. I have many picture books I bought long before I had children.
Really?
And picture books I continue to purchase for myself. Yes. Because yes, beautiful words are beautiful words.
Did you want me to start in the beginning?
Sure.
Or anywhere at all?
Your choice.
The gray pony lived in a green pasture. There was a small red barn for wet, windy days, and a big old maple for hot, sunny days. A brown-eyed girl and a blue-eyed dog came every day, bringing hay and water and a bucket of sweet grain. When the girl and the dog were gone, the pony grazed and lazed and swished the hours away. From the front porch, the girl and her mother watched a dark shape tumble and swirl through the sky. "What is it?" asked the girl. "Birds," said her mother. "A murmuration of starlings." "There are so many," said the girl. "Starlings love a crowd. You never see just one." And her mother went to cover the grapes. The starlings stayed for several days. They plucked at the peaches and tugged at the tomatoes. They grabbed at the grapes, but the grapes were safe beneath their net. Then, just like that, the starlings were gone. The days ticked over until the air tasted of frost and wood smoke and homework. The girl was staring out the window. "There's a bird on the fence." Said her mother. "Did you finish your math?" "The bird is back," said the girl the next day. Said her mother. "Did you tidy your room?" The following morning, the girl and the dog walked down to the pasture. The pony was waiting by the fence. The bird was waiting by the pony. It had feathers like the night sky, shiny and dark and glistening with stars. "Starling," said the girl, "where's your crowd?" The starling didn't answer. It flew to the roof of the barn and watched as the pony ate the grain.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it. It's even better when I hear you read.
Yeah. She's fangirling.
Just a bit.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It smelled like homework. Like I love it. I watched your face as she read it. It was perfect.
There's sometimes when a line presents itself that you know it's right, that it feels right. And I don't claim a lot of responsibility for it because sometimes the words are gifts and they just kind of come. But there's a lot of, I think, and I said this before, but my inspiration does come from the landscape. But with picture books especially, it also comes from emotion. And that kind of emotional resonance that you have from those core memories and those core sensations that we have when we're growing up, and the smells and the sounds and the sensory is, the things that kind of shape us. So when you go back, when you revisit that, it's like, yeah, that's what fall was.
Big time, big time. I'd love to know a little bit more about you. Like, when did you decide that writing was going to be your thing, or did it decide for you?
Always. I think I wrote my first book in grade 2.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, it was yeah.
Not your best
It was
word.
well, it was about a teddy bear and a wishing stick. But it was like bound and everything, and with pictures, and yes, I'm not an artist, that's why someone else illustrates my work. But no stories of, I don't recall ever, I always knew that storytelling and books were gonna be a huge part of what I did. It was either I was gonna be a writer or I wanted to be Jane Goodall and, you know, driving across the desert and the jungle in a safari. But
Yeah, that's
you know,
fair.
So I'm
You know, Safari, Hillsborough,
Yeah.
same thing.
Same.
I think I need to. So now I need to figure out a story that will take me to, you know, the.
Yeah, you need to go research gorillas or something, right?
I know.
Yes.
I know.
I think that's brilliant.
I was going to say, we'll revisit this in a year or two when your
Yes.
next book comes out, and that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, for those who aren't familiar with your work and things, tell people a little bit more about your career as an author.
I've always written, and I was interested in children's literature from as far back as I remember, academically as well. When I went to university and I studied English literature, and I remember telling my my undergrad thesis advisor that I wanted to go on and study children's literature and young adult literature, and he kind of cocked his head sideways and went, because and I'm old enough that, you know, it wasn't exactly a mainstream field of study at the time. But I did go on and study it, and then, but what I found, the more I studied it from the academic aspect, I knew that I really wanted to do it from the creator aspect. So I wanted to be the one creating the stories and writing the stories. I've written a little bit of everything. I do communications and freelance writing as my profession. But I wrote my first middle grade chapter book when my own children were small. And it was the Chocolate River Rescue, which is very local. And I only ever thought that would have a very regional readership, like my family.
Very, very regional.
And as it turned out, it struck a chord with a lot of young readers, and it's still being read in classrooms. I'm still getting letters and calls from teachers in classrooms. So it started with that, and it started with writing books for my own children. But writing has always been a way of how I process the world and how I celebrate the things that are important to me. And so it just keeps going.
So for people who want to pick up more of your books, whether it's the young adult books or the children's books, how can people follow you and find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jen by C. You can follow me on Facebook, Jennifer McGrath Author. And as for the books, you can find these from all of your favorite booksellers, wherever you buy your books. I encourage you to ask your independent booksellers if they have it, and your local libraries. Ask for it at your library.
Ooh, yeah, good idea.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes, and if you have gifts on your list for anyone or yourself, you're allowed to buy the book for yourself.
Yes, you are.
Join me. That's fun.
You absolutely are.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Thank you for coming in. I know Jenna was openly fangirling, but inside I was holding it in as best I could. So thank you so much for being here.
The fangirl is reciprocal.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone who's been watching and listening, and we will be back again next week with a brand new episode.